So difficult.
Excuse me, Niles, but I've got news for you. Copernicus called, and you are not the center of the universe.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
It's long been established that Hollywood is a gathering place of every sort of narcissistic tendency on the planet. And you can't get more narcissistic than Jimmy Kimmel. Well, Jimmy Kimmel right now has got all the attention he ever wanted because of what he said about Charlie Kirk, what he said about the MAGA movement, and the lie he puked out there. Now, I think Mark Hemingway, or one of the guys, Halprin, posted a blog where he said basically Jimmy Kimmel got sent downriver or sent to the nether world of show business because he believed the lies of the MSM. No, that's not what happened. Jimmy Kimmel happily hates, over half the country. Jimmy Kimmel knew he was lying. Jimmy Kimmel doesn't care because Jimmy Kimmel thinks the world revolves around him and he wants to say the most outrageous fucking thing he can say and in turn shit all over a good man like Charlie Kirk, who was murdered by somebody that I think Jimmy Kimmel would fall in love with, because the Charlie Kirk stood for morals. He stood for young men to stand up and take care of their themselves and their families. Where does that idea happen in Hollywood? It doesn't. Then we have this piece of shit, a runaway nobleman, which, I mean, you know, I looked it up, and Pedro Pascal is not a refugee. He could go to Spain and get Spanish citizenship, and he's got plenty of cousins in the Spanish-landed gentry in Castile. He wouldn't stand up for Gina Carano when she was discriminated against by Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm. Carl Weathers did. Giancarlo did, but not Pedro. You know, and then, you know, we've got rumors coming out of Marvel that he's upset that Gina was going to go to Marvel too, right? And it's like, look, Pedro, you're an amoral piece of shit, and we're all done with you. I told you his story, who his dad is, the great pervert fertility doctor who ran to the Venezuelan embassy with his wife and his son in order to escape Augusto Pinochet. Well, there's one Pinochet missed. Then he runs to Denmark, commits tax evasion, and runs to the United States, where he commits more fraud. Okay, that's Pedro Pascal. Mommy, of course, was a child psychologist, so you wonder why A, Pascal's a lunatic, B, he's got a lunatic brother, right? He clicks all the Hollywood narcissist boxes. They don't have any moral compass. And Pascal obviously wasn't raised to have a moral compass, because he would have stood up for Gina. He would have been the loudest. He would have said, if she goes, I go. But he didn't. He kept his mouth shut. Why? Because he was probably quietly applauding her being discriminated against and bullied by the LGBTQ crybabies and the lockdown crybabies at Lucasfilm. You wonder why Pablo Hidalgo's such a nutbag? Think about what he supports and then go, oh, okay, I get it now. Lockdowns. The one thing the left loves to peddle in is making everybody afraid. And they can't stand it when someone's not afraid. Gina's not afraid and wasn't afraid to stand up and say, why are we doing this? And that's why they went after her. That's why Kennedy raised and blew the anti-Semite dog whistle. Right? This is discrimination. It has nothing to do with free speech. Right? Sinclair Broadcasting, Nexstar, doesn't want to be associated with Jimmy Kimmel over the lie he told indiscriminately about who Charlie Kirk's murderer was. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel probably has a candle with Taylor Robinson's picture on it. I mean, honestly, that's what we're dealing with, this vile, filthy, fascist, leftist bullshit. They have the balls to call us fascists, and we will protect their free speech. But we also understand that the government isn't prosecuting him or persecuting him for saying this. It's Sinclair Broadcasting, a privately owned company, that is saying, we do not wish to be associated with this scumbag anymore. And need I remind you guys, his behavior towards women when they did the Man Show. In his big, tearful apology, I was so mean to women. You still are, you piece of shit. You still support abortion. You support men in women's locker rooms. Fuck off. That's my opinion. And I'm absolutely outraged that we have yet another Lucasfilm star jumping to the forefront of leftist pig virtue signaling, standing with this vile scumbag, Jimmy Kimmel, because Jimmy Kimmel got fired. He got put on the side because he did something that could get every one of those companies sued into the ground by Erica Kirk, and she would have a case, and she would win. That's another reason why. Not only was Sinclair Broadcasting not able to sell advertising during the Late Show, they also could not. Which made it so they weren't making money. They also could be liable for everything that comes out of this shithead's mouth. Right? So, hence, why he got fired. Right? It's one thing to say I disagree. It's another thing to go out there and puke lies when everybody watching knew he was lying. Right? I'm just out here putting this out there. Okay? So let's talk further.
You have done that yourself.
Is it not enough, my lord, that I have never lost a battle?
You serve me, and the manner in which you serve me reflects upon me. I would have thought that a gentleman from a family as esteemed as yours would understand that.
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
And now we have Pedro Pascal again showing his angry, hateful, amoral self again, period. I told you his background. Daddy was a tax evader and was a friend of, or part of the Allende aristocracy in Chile. And when Pinochet came to power, Daddy and Mommy fled to the Venezuelan embassy, and then they fled to Denmark as, quote, refugees, even though they're part of the Castilian aristocracy in Spain, and they're whiter than I am. But we all have to feel sorry for them. Where Daddy decided to commit tax evasion. Then they fled to the United States, where Daddy committed all kinds of fraud in his fertility clinic. I mean, and of course, let's see, we have a brother who has decided out of his insanity that he's a girl, and we're all supposed to run with it. No. I don't have to take part in this game of imagination that Pedro and his brother have out there, okay? Mommy, of course, was a child psychologist. So now you wonder why Pedro's life has been such a shitty life. Period. Psychologists in general are batshit crazy. And, you know, you got daddy who probably cheated and just gross people in general. Leftists with no moral compass usually are just gross. And, you know, I know for a fact, and you know for a fact, Pedro's been celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. He doesn't, look, again, Pedro doesn't have children. He is not married. He doesn't know anything about what that looks like. And he doesn't give a shit, right? Look what he did to Gina Carano. When she needed him most, he didn't say a fucking word. And we can all be very happy the piece of shit is not going to be the Mandalorian anymore. And should never have been cast as Din Djarin to begin with. There's a guy he's basically Mando. He just doesn't get to show his face or use his voice. And that's Brendan Wayne, John Wayne's grandson. You know, I've had leftists say, oh, he doesn't have a great speaking voice. Yes, he does. So stop it. I mean, just stop it. The only reason why Pedro Pascal ever got the role is because Disney would not allow Jon Favreau to make the show unless they had a, quote, star, quote, attached to it. Of all the people to have attached to it, fucking Pedro Pascal. Red diaper baby from a screwed up, major league screwed up family who celebrates the death of a good, decent man and stands up for a vile, filthy pig, an animal, I would say, like Jimmy Kimmel. You know, I mean, and Star Wars, sadly for Jon Favreau, he's attached to the son of a bitch. Period. When Gina got fired, bullied out of the business, it wasn't her free speech being violated necessarily. She was being persecuted for her politics. And that is a big fucking no-no. Right? I wouldn't do that to anybody that worked for me as long as they conducted themselves with class and understood that when they went outside and their names were attached to Steph Film, that they represented me. But the moment they started cheering the death of a good, decent man is the moment they get fired. All I need to do is look at the post or hear their words and they are gone. Because as a business owner, I don't have to associate with that, right? But if they want to have a classy debate, Bill Maher style, about politics, fine. But don't do it at work either, because that's just disruptive, right? It's disruptive, and it leads to a very bad work environment. So that's another thing. And the fact that Sinclair Broadcasting, Nexstar, saw they weren't making any money, they were losing money on Jimmy Kimmel Live, then, you know, them demanding he get pulled was, you know, fantastic. They don't have to. In fact, if Disney says, "Well, we're bringing him back," Sinclair says, "Well, we're not gonna have his show on. We'll do another thing." They don't have to have him on their channels. They're the ones that own the TV stations, not Disney and not ABC. Right? And Pedro Pascal is going to have a long conversation with the man in the mirror about why he didn't defend Gina out loud in public after she was bullied and humiliated and discriminated against over her politics. Right. This is Steph signing out. See you around the galaxy.